Welcome to our podcast, Below the Belt. We are broadcasting from the national capital city of Georgetown, of the oil producing Republic of Guyana. Fuel price gone up. Fuel price gone up, folks. The biggest budget ever, and yet fuel prices gone up. And we producing oil. oil is the Oil is the refined kind. Oil is the crude one. We're producing oil. Fuel price gone up as of this morning across the country, folks. Welcome to our international podcast, Below the Belt. It's good to see Beatrice Selby. Good to see all of the other folks joining us across social media. Guys, if you don't comment, we will not see your names, and so we can't give you the kind of shout out that we want to give you. But good to see each and every one of you. We can see at least a scores of persons. We are in a couple of seconds now are joining the podcast, and we're tremendously heartened by that. We trust that the weather is great where you guys are joining us from. Scores upon scores upon scores of you are joining us. Smash the emoji button and share the live stream as well. I see Margaret Nelson has joined us. Margaret, how are you doing there? Margaret, how are you doing there, Margaret? Good to see you. Margaret joins us from New Jersey, New Jersey, New Jersey. Lativia Lois, how are you doing? Is it Lois or Lewis? Oh, drop your voice note and let me know, the man. It's Lois or Lewis. I want to call your name properly, Lativia. Good to see you there. And Peggy Russell Elias, we see you as well. Wilton Blue, we see you. Good sir, Wilton. We see you there. Andrew Cuthbert, pace and power. Andrew always reminds us pace and power in 2022. Good to see you, Wilton Blue. We see Lynette Jacobs is here as well. She said, I hear again below the belt. Welcome, Lynette. We could not ask for some better folks to share the live stream with and to share this program with, to share this next hour with. Fuel prices have increased. And guys, if you've been following our page this morning, we put out that information. There's a graphic on our page to that end, and there's an article as well. Guys, there is an article, and we're going to come to that on our affiliate website, Credible Sources. Folks, we want to see those emojis. We want to see those shares. Good to see you, Colin, and Marva, April. Good to see each and every one of you guys. We are so heartened to see us. Drop us a comment so we give you guys a shout out. Desiree Rodriguez, we see you there. Desiree, we see you. We see you, Desiree. And Desiree Liverpool. Simon Liverpool, we see you there. Paulette Greaves, Sharon Grant should be sharing. Donna McDonald, we see you. Wendy Rowland, we see you as well. Guys, we're talking today. Coming up, we're talking today with Dr. Vincent Adams, issues in oil and gas. And we started this discussion in our big issue on the morning program, FYI. And I want to thank you guys so much for the hundreds of you who showed up for FYI this morning. I had your say, and now you're back again to have lunch with us. We could not ox for more. We could not ox for more at all. Guys, I'm happy you're here. I see Mark DeCosta has joined us as well. Mark, a very good morning to you, a very good day to you. Hazelin King, we see you. Jadish Dish. How much dish this one name got? Jadish Dish. First name Jadish, last name Dish. We put that name in quotation mark. Hazelin King, we see you. A marvelous Monday to you as well. Hazelin King says, a marvelous Monday to all. June Chase, we see you. Good to have you here as well, along with Bunny Allison and Carlotta Reynolds and Glenford Gordon. Glenford Gordon. GG, the old eyes I'm working today. Bunny Allison, we see you there. Bunny, we see you. Maureen Chichester Paul. I was calling Maureen's name incorrectly this morning, but I was summarily upbraided by my co-host, Rita Fernandez. Maureen Chichester Paul. I ain't making a mistake again. Claire Capel. Claire is with us. Good to see you, Claire. And we also have Christopher. Is it Shuram? Christopher Shuram, who is watching us from Mountaintop. Christopher, where is Mountaintop? Christopher, tell us where is Mountaintop. Good to see each and every one of you guys. Which far from place around the world you guys are joining our international podcast from? Which far from place around the world are you guys joining our podcast from? Good to see each and every one of you. Nonetheless, Marilyn C. Fortin, Mornis Toby, Donna McDonald, good to have each and every one of you here with us. I see Claire, Alexis, Charmley, Richmond is here with us as well. Faye Scott has just showed up. Faye, good to see you. And Roxanne Estrado and Paul Poussin. Good to see each and every one of you guys. We are so glad to have you here. Maureen, Marilyn and Maureen, Faye Scott, Glenford and Marlin King. All the Marlins are here. All the Marylands are here. Guys, we're so pleased and so privileged to have each and every one of you. We're fired up at this end and we're ready to go. We're going to be mixing things up in this podcast. We're going to be having, we're going to have as a guest today Dr. Vincent Adams is a man who is an expert in oil and gas. Let's not talk expert, real expert. He's studied for all the qualifications in oil and gas, in petroleum, you name it. He has been qualified at a doctoral level. There's not, what you call it, uh, PhD bestowed on people, right? This is earned PhD. And Dr. Adams is the former uh, Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental Protection Agency locally, came home to take up that post after working or was working at the time in the US and has worked at the highest governmental levels in the US in this area. He knows what he's talking about. This is a man named Bluffin. E.M. Bluffin. This is true story. He is not bluffing. He knows what he's talking about. So listen to him. Listen to the fella. Listen to the fella when he's talking. Carolina Ronalds, good to see you. Good to see you. FYI, Irfan is on his way to, is it Belize? Belize is where the Conference of the Heads of Government is being held. And Irfan is off to Belize today. He's off to Belize. And while those guys are going to be there in Belize, the heads of government of the CARICOM community, while they're going to be there in Belize, talking and having a nice time, the world's attention, sadly, is on Ukraine and what is happening there. The world's attention is on what is happening in Ukraine, folks. Sad to say, but that is where the world's attention is. And hopefully we might have a very a strong another statement coming out of CARICOM after this heads of government meeting in Belize on what's happening there in Ukraine. You may have another statement come out, but we're going to keep you guys posted right here. FYI, we're going to keep you guys posted right here. But we've been following this and following some of what has been happening in the Ukraine, and more we see the citizenry in Ukraine rising up, taking up arms, and making their presence felt, defending their homeland. And we've been following last week on the program. A member of parliament, for instance, was armed to the teeth, folks, ready for the defense of the nation. And that is what it has come down to in Ukraine. Patriotism. People don't want to just be evacuated and to run across the border, run and hide in somebody's country because Putin coming. People are standing up. The ordinary citizen, they're standing up and they're fighting. And so our attention today is drawn to Anastasia Lena. Anastasia Lena, a beautiful young woman, face and body and mind as well. Anastasia Lian, who is Miss Grand UK 2015. And she has left her heels and glamour aside to defend her country. And folks, the status on our Facebook post to this effect, it reads that sometimes we got to go in the trenches. And the guys are right. Sometimes we got to go in the trenches. Sometimes we got to take off the suit, take off the fancy clothes, take off the high heel shoes and so on. And it's trenches because it's war. It is war. And it's, again, guys, it is very heartening to see these folks standing up, standing up for their country in this way. It is really heartening to see that. And we couldn't ask for a better show of courage from the Ukrainian people. So that's what's happening on the international front. And we made to understand that as we speak right now, guys, as we speak. You know what's happening else? You know what else is happening internationally? Folks, share the live stream as you come on. Share the live stream and smash that emoji button as well. Brenda Brafford, good to see you. Ravi Kemraj, good to see you. Ravi's in the house. Stacey Malice, Debbie Headley, and Glenford Gordon, good to see you as well. You know what's happening, guys, as we are reaching at this end? Let me tell you, folks, what is happening. Let me tell you what's happening on that same international front of uh, the Russia-Ukraine war. The parties on both sides are currently meeting at the Belarus border, and there's what is being described as a ceasefire talks. Ceasefire talks, according to the headline we're seeing, ceasefire talks begin at Belarus border 4 days after Russia invades Ukraine. 4 days after Russia invades Ukraine, and these are being described and categorized as ceasefire talks between the Russian and Ukraine officials, which began on the Belarusian border today as Russia faced deepening economic isolation 4 days after invading Ukraine. And a part of the report reads further: Russian forces seized two small cities in southern Ukraine and the area around a nuclear power plant. The Interfax news agency has said, but they ran into stiff resistance elsewhere as the biggest assault on a European state since World War II failed to make as much ground as some had expected. Wap wap wap. Where do we find that song from, guys? Talks began with the aim of an immediate ceasefire and the withdrawal of Russian forces. The Ukrainian president's office said Russia has been eager about the talks. Am I reading it right? I think that's what it says. With the Kremlin declining to comment on Moscow's aim. So there are talks on the way, ceasefire talks. Whether that bears fruit remains to be seen. Whether it bears fruit remains to be seen. But we're going to be keeping you guys updated on that. And as we said, closer to home, the fuel price gone up, people. The fuel price gone up. Carol Hudson, you heard that? Sandra Batiste, you heard that? Fuel price gone up. Glenford Gordon says Russia losing the war. I agree with you, my brother. I agree with you. Fuel price gone up. Maureen Coppin Williams, the fuel price has gone up. Maryland Seaford, it gone up. It gone up. And one correspondent out of our affiliate news site, Credible Sources, one of our correspondents has filed this report that says that the prices go into effect countrywide. When the prices high, let's can't say prices white mounted. Yeah, it's prices. The prices have gone up and have gone into effect countrywide. A notice posted to the company's Facebook page. This is Guy Oil, right? Guy Oil, the Ghana Oil Company, noted that the price of gasoline will be increased from 10 liters to, by $10 per liter. The prices of gasoline will increase by $10 per liter. I see some of the guys at the back here watching me. They said they can't come to work now because this thing getting tight. $10 per liter from 193 to 903. That's the hop with gasoline, and then diesel has also increased. Diesel has gone now from 186 per liter to 196 per liter. Also, the price of kerosene. Oh my God. They even left in kerosene. Kerosene price increased too from 163 per liter to 173. From 163 to 173. And this is across most parts of Guyana, according to our correspondent from the our affiliate website, Credible Sources. There's a story up on that, and Credible Sources, folks, can be had at crediblesources.gy, crediblesources.gy.com. Is that the address? Crediblesources.gy.com. Yeah, correct is right. And finally, on this issue, it is said here that it was only on February 2nd, a few weeks ago, that the company announced decreases in the fuel price after months of prolonged pleading from the parliamentary opposition and civil society organizations. And it's just during the course of the budget, the reading of the national budget, the reading and passage of the national budget, the oil prices went down, and then boys, they both in. Now prices are back up again. It's one step forward and two step backward and tremble. Y'all know that soca? One step forward, two step backward and tremble, folks. That is how things are going, right? Last week the prices gone down. This week it come back. You give with one hand, you take back with 10. So I hope folks are listening. I hope folks are listening. I hope folks are listening. One step forward, two step backward and tremble. Tremble. Y'all know them songs? Huh? Y'all know them tunes? I think so. Yeah, some of y'all too young, you know. Some of y'all too young out here. Some of y'all too young out here. Elandia Thomas, you're too young out here. Vanessa Andrew, you know that song, man. You're too young, Vanessa. I know you're too young to know that. Donna Liverpool, you know the song? One Step Forward, Kelvin Brower. And Trimble. Guys, do we have it? I know we got some DJs at the back here, It's pull up these songs quick, quick, quick. Them guys are easy. Quick, quick, quick. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. Them guys pull up them tunes. That's how they're going with the oil prices. With the oil prices. One step forward, two step backwards. I think they might have it. Let me hear. Is the right thing they got? Is the right thing? Or is the wrong thing? On the oil prices, guys, we one step forward, two step backwards. Here we go. Here we go. I don't think it's this. I think one step forward, two step backwards, a little faster than this. I think it's a little faster than that. One step forward, two step backward and tremble. Everybody tremble. I bang lang, I got me London. I know looking good. Cecile Ogle, I know looking good. Ravi Kemraj, I know looking good. One step forward, two backwards and tremble. That used to be the song. Maxine Cameron. Maxine Cameron. That's how the oil price going. That is how the oil price going. I hope they discuss these things at this has a government meeting. CARICOM has a government meeting in Belize. What's the abbreviation for that? Is it Chagum or Chisholm? The conference of the heads of government meeting is happening, folks. Everyone fly out, right? When is the catfish is supposed to swim out, but he fly out. He's a flying fish today. Gone to Belize for the CARICOM heads of government meeting. They should talk about Haiti and so on. Don't only talk about Ukraine. Thing right in my backyard. Seemingly intractable problems. We got big brains and big bodies. We got to figure out these problems. We got to figure out these problems. Right here, Haiti wants some attention. Wonder London, right? Somebody done in it. They said, let me tremble, right? Wonder says it's a song by Shadow. One step forward, two step backward. Here's Lincoln. You know this song, man. You're too young. Stop it. Stop it right now. Carrot Clark. Magnell Barrow, stop it right now. Y'all too young to know this song. Jackie Beard. I know some of y'all gone far now. Y'all forget all these songs. Y'all listening now to Mozart and Tchaikovsky and Paganini and them boys. Y'all forget Barolini Dragoneers and the other folks. What was them? Not Earth, Wind and Fire and them, man. Baron Leaning Dragoneers, and then you had Crossfire and them. Some of y'all young yet in this business, Penelope Hudson, some of y'all young yet in this business. That's how the oil price is going, though. One step forward, two step backward, and then we tremble. Everybody tremble. Candice and more, good to see you there. Great to see all of you guys joining us. So the oil prices, right? Prices when it's normal. The prices now are gone up $10 a barrel on gasoline countrywide. And we're going to be hearing lots of folks going to be born out, but hold on. Hold on. We don't know when first bell ring. It's when second bell ring. Then it's got other problems. So those prices, the price increases, diesel and gasoline and even kerosene oil. Oh, Father. You think you could go back to basics and you're safe? No. Them buys Caroto. You're paying this thing one way or the next. You are paying this money one way or the next. So don't think you're escaping this. Them boys got you any which way you turn. You say, all right, I give up, which is the higher one, gasoline or is this other one? Right? I give up gasoline for diesel. I give up diesel for gasoline. No, no, even Caro. When you dress down to Caro, you realize, no, no, no. Caro expensive now. Caro expensive. Father, have his mercies. Lord, have his mercies. Things tight, people. It tight. So we're following that on the local front. And what else are we following on the local front? Guys, this oil and gas story. This oil and gas story, there are a number of issues, if you want to put it in that way, a number of outstanding issues that are in the public domain, and people have been very, very vocal. This is in the oil and gas sector. People want betterment, right? People want betterment. You give me a little 7%, 3.5 over two budgets, and then you raise oil prices, you raise fuel price. And on top of that, folks, things are already high out there. On top of that, things are already high. So what we doing? What we doing? That makes sense? Friends, apologies there. What we doing? That makes sense? That makes sense. Biggest budget ever. And we spending more money? You're spending more money. So these are some of the issues that we've been looking at. And I want to go through some of the issues very quickly that are very contentious in oil and gas as we prepare to have our guest on, the good doctor, Vincent Adams. Folks, one of the issues of contention is this production sharing agreement of 2016. Now, there was an agreement that was signed by the People's Progressive Party, Civic, when they were in office previous to this, right? Before they were installed, when they were elected back in the day. Mrs. Jagan signed an oil agreement and got 1% royalty. 1% royalty. That was revised in 2016, and some other aspects of the contract were also revised. People got a problem with the 2016 production sharing agreement, and you are free to have a problem with it. You are free to express a contrary view. We love contrary views, not silly and stupid views. Contrary, coherent views. It must make sense. It must make sense. So the production sharing agreement, the PSA, has been one of those areas of contentions. Good. Can we move on now? Another area of contention is the 2% royalty. And again, people are allowed to have differing opinions. So take that in your pipe and let me move on. You are free to hold a contrary opinion. We deserve more. Last week, during the course of the protests outside of the Energy Conference and Expo, the International Energy Conference and Expo, people were suggesting 50% increase in royalty as against this meager, measly, minuscule 2% as it stands. That's what they were saying. They want 50%. So there's that issue of contention out there already. The issue of the percentage royalty. Right? NASA. And then there's another issue of the open-ended cost recovery period. The open-ended cost recovery period. Right now, there is $9 billion to be audited as pre-production costs. I think that's what they term it as. Pre-production costs, hence cost recovery. Pre-production cost, $9 billion. But we need independent auditors to go through that list of spending to see what was really spent and what could just be mistake or human error or whatever else. You see, I ain't say corruption and scampishness because I am presuming that things went regular. I am presuming that everything was above board. But to audit what they spent to get us to forest oil, that is yet to be done. That is an area of contention as well. And then people talk about ring fencing. Now, that's not a fence in your yard. It's a different kind. It's a total kind of different kind of fencing. A different techno word fit. A different. Another issue people have been talking about is full coverage insurance. Full coverage insurance. And that is one of the issues we are going to be picking up with our guests for today, right? And I'm certain all of the views expressed or being expressed in the comment section here is going to fall somewhere between all of these, right? All of the views that are going to be expressed here are going to fall somewhere between one of these issues that people got with the administration, the oil and gas governance, call it what you will. They are going to express a similar view somewhere along this spectrum. And today I would like to welcome with me, if he's here as yet, checking the studio to see if he's here. Welcome with me, Dr. Vincent Adams. And Vincent is, Dr. Adams is one of those persons who used to head the Environmental Protection Agency. And, you know, he's done sterling work in this area. Roxanne Beard and Jackie Beard and James Brentnell and all the other folks. I see some electronic artists has joined us as well. Um, and we have Sadie DB and Andrew Cuthbert, Mark DeCosta, and a whole host of other folks who have joined us. I am pleased to have with us Dr. Vincent Adams, again, as I said, a specialist in petroleum, specialist in oil and gas, and in all these environmental issues that go along with the oil and gas sector. A guy who has done, again, I say, sterling work as head of the Environmental Protection Agency. Dr. Vincent Adams, welcome to Below the Belt. Welcome, sir.
Hey, hey, Sharon, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Doc, it is good to have you here. I was telling the folks that, you know, you are one of those real patriots who left uh, decent, lucrative, paying work back in North America to come here, head up the agency. Towards the end, they didn't treat you too well at all. You were supplanted by what is, for all intents and purposes, a yes man there at EPA. And now they're getting a lot of issues in the oil and gas sector, some of what which I was articulating for our listeners just a few minutes ago. A lot of problems in the oil and gas sector. So Doc, for those persons who might be new, who have been living on the rock and don't know who Dr. Vincent Adams is, tell us a little bit about yourself and your area of expertise, if I've missed anything.
Well, thanks, Sharon. Of course, I grew up in Christianborg, Linden. I know a lot of people here with Linden, but they don't know about Christianborg is on the West Bank.
Mm-hmm.
They A lot of people even call the entire West Bank Wisma, but that's not the case. Matter of fact, our own, the leader of the PNCR, and I grew up with what we call the alleys of Christianborg.
Mm-hmm. The good
So
old
that's where
days.
I started, and I, went to school there, went to Mackenzie High. Then I even played cricket for Guyana. Um, you know, got into an automobile accident, went to UG, migrated, and we know now that the rest is history. I worked at the highest level of the U.S. government. I obtained degrees and extensive experience, over 40 years experience in the oil industry and in the environmental protection areas of the government, working at its highest level here in the US. And then in the meantime, while I was doing all of that, every year I found time to go back home, because had it not been for my grounding in Guyana, I would not have gotten any place where I was. So every year I went back home taking medical. I was head of the Guyana, the Linden Fund association. I went back home every year, brought back medical missions, teachers workshops, giving scholarships to students at the University of Guyana. Just helping communities. So
Wonderful work.
I've always remained connected to Guyana, and I intend to continue to do so. So I'm just waiting for the COVID. My intention was to stay in Guyana even after my dismissal, was to stay in Guyana and do voluntary work. But then of course COVID got into the way. But I
Mhm, mhm.
I do intend, as soon as COVID is finished, to continue my charitable work, to give back to the nation, to be back home, to be back in Guyana.
Fantastic. So, Dr. Adams, you returned shortly after the 2015 Avenue AFC win and entered office, and you begun immediately upon applying and being successful through that application process. You were appointed as the is it chief executive officer of the EPA, the Environmental Protection
EPA,
Agency. Yep. And
yes.
you got to work immediately revamping that organization. It wasn't fit for purpose as it was for this new oil and gas sector that we were going into. Tell us a little bit about some of that work that you got. You hit the ground running doing at the EPA.
Okay, I remember when. As a matter of fact, I recall when I was being into, and the first thing, Sharon, I'm glad you brought this up, because this whole excuse about me being a political appointee is absolute nonsense. No, none of the politicians had even known that I had applied. It's a friend of mine called me and tell me, hey, because I'm always going back to Guyana, and he said, well, hey Vince, here's why don't you come back permanently now that you've retired? Here's a position, and I just casually applied, to be honest. And when I went for the first interview, that was when I really got serious. But no, none of my political friends, the president didn't even know that I had applied or anything of the sort. It went through the process, and it was after the job was offered me in the final interview that I revealed to the chairman of the EPA board and the EPA director that I had, I was I had belonged to the AFC party. It never came up. They, and they said, hey, you know what, you are by far the best qualified person. So it had nothing to do with that. And even when I arrived there, the EPA. So I asked the staff. I said, "Tell me about the EPA." The first, without exception, everybody said it's the most dysfunctional agency there is. People were just coming to work and going home and just waiting to get another job.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and when I got there, I was in total. I thought it was bad, but it was worse. Even when I was being interviewed, when I was giving them my vision for the agency, what the panel was telling me, I was too, I'm probably a little bit too idealistic, because those things, I'm in a new country here, Guyana doesn't work that way. So they laughed at me basically that I couldn't achieve it. And when I arrived there, and what I told them, I said, I don't care what you say. I've supervised folks, and I don't care which country you come from. People are people. If they get the right leadership and you treat them like the most important assets of your organization, they will perform. And lo and behold, I got there, and within 1 year, that agency, the entire culture and everything was just torn completely around. I, you know, hey, we were not. We had one vehicle, Sharon, one vehicle to run the entire country,
Wow.
and then you hear we didn't have money. You know what I did when I said, okay, give me a list of all of the permits that we've issued, and let's see the status of each permit, so that we can look forward and make sure that when applications come in, they're done on time. And the other thing I said, we always remember every morning when you walk in here, remember you work for the people. You work for the people. They're paying your salary. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the
Mm-hmm.
culture that we developed, customer focus. So we had this one vehicle site. When Sharon, I was in total shock that when we put a list of all the permits together, we had over 500 permits that had expired, some over 15 years. We had people operating who did not even apply for permit. And I'm talking about big, major, biggest companies in the country. Okay? So I decided now we had the other thing is we had no we didn't have any kind of record where we could go back and see who the status of some because some had their permits and we didn't have a copy of the permit. So I put out the
Wow.
notice out there and I said everybody you better come give me I think 30 days to come in and show us your permit or else you're gonna have to terminate the operation. Within a year, Sharon, all of those back fees that we had remember those 15 years and stuff that people owed?
Mm-hmm,
Within
mm-hmm.
1 year, we collected about $150 million.
And this is back fees on those permits that were outstanding
That's exactly correct.
that the
And
company didn't even know were in existence.
absolutely, that's exactly. We collected $150 million. I used that when I left there. We had 8 new vehicles, pickups where people can go all over the country. We set up a training program for the employees. We increased salaries for the employees and staff. We gave them bigger bonuses, and people now started to. I remember when I was
I
there,
think
we
he even
get
built
so.
a new wing. The government even built a new wing to the EPA.
Yeah, well, it's a new. That was being built before I got there.
Good. Mhm.
That we moved into that building, uh, but the employees they were coming to work anytime. They were leaving when it's 4 o'clock. You better get out of the way. So nobody was doing work. And when within a few months when they started the leasing and the culture change, people used to be in there almost. People used to be in there 7, 8, 9 o'clock every single night on weekends and all. When I'm there, people would be coming in because they took ownership of the work, they took pride. And the one thing I did, the one thing that we never had, Sharon, this here is very important, and the people of Guyana need to listen to this.
Tell us, tell us.
When I was there, there was zero political interference,
Mm-hmm.
zero.
Mm-hmm.
I never got the president was my boss. I never got a call from the president. And you and the rest of the public may recall, I was going after the big boys. You remember I closed down the 2 biggest mining companies.
Mm-hmm.
You
Correct.
remember the
Correct.
guy with the
Correct.
coconut, and these were supporters. There are people who were supporters of the governing party, but it didn't matter to me. I never got a call from any of the ministers to say, hey, you need to turn a blind eye. As a matter of fact, what the ministers used to tell him, hey, nah, this is one for, he does his work and, he does get interest in the country and we're not going to interfere. I never had any interference. You know what's happening in the EPA now? Almost based on the reports I got, almost on a daily, they're being directed
Wow.
by politicians who call in
Wow.
and look at the examples of the EIAs. Look at the EIAs for the bridge. When the technical people published in the newspapers that they needed an EIA, it was published. The next thing you know, within a couple of months, it was overturned by guess who? The politician.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on. It's total political influence. If the agency has become politicized, all the good people. I increased the staff by over 20% with high. We didn't have a single engineer at EPA. Imagine having a technical agency without an engineer. I went out. I hired 5 engineers. I hired lawyers. I hired some of the best people that we could find. I brought in two highly experienced people from the US. One had like 30 something years at the EPA in the US, to mentor and train the folks, All of them have gone, all the top notch people that I hired and some others, all the high they now there's an exodus from the EPA right now because like for example, we built a capacity building program where where EPA would send you go on training at UG or wherever, but you've got to sign a 4 year contract, which is the best investment. I mean, that's the way you retain staff and build capacity. Would you believe? You know what was told to the staff when they asked if that program will still continue? They said no. You know what was told to them? The EPA is not a university. All of you are on your own.
Mm-mm.
That was what was told to them. So now, so now people are just leaving. It's an exodus of people just leaving. So there's no, when you look, there's no hope as far as you know, as far as the future of the agency. The other thing that has been, people have been targeted. The senior officers, a lot of them have been demoted. dismiss, reducing salaries. I mean, what's going on there for an agency? The guy at Texan, the head guy at Texan used to tell me almost every time he stepped in, so you realize that the EPA is the most important agency in the nation, and it is, but it's not run the way it's supposed to be run. So
Mhm.
that's the dilemma we're in. Like this insurance, for
But
example.
I was about to pick up on that. I was about to say, well, since you're talking about it's not running the way it's supposed to run, let's pick up on this full coverage insurance because this is one of the things people have been protesting here about the fact that we don't have full coverage insurance, and we're learning now that under or your tenure, just before they removed you as being head of that agency, this was something that ExxonMobil had agreed to. Tell us about this full coverage insurance firstly, and why is it important to the oil and gas sector, and then tell us about the strides you were making in the industry towards this.
Sherrod, insurance, it's just like everything else. If you've got a flood, even in your own home, or you get an accident, you can't shell out that money. So you're paying premiums, and hopefully you're paying premiums that you never get anything. I mean, that's the ultimate. You know, that'll be the ultimate value. But to cover that risk, so that if something happens, you don't have that bulk of money ready available. The insurance pays for it. It's like health insurance, it's like death insurance, life insurance, etc. It's the
Hmm.
same thing. If we have, and just go back just a few years ago, go back to what happened in the Gulf of Mexico with British Petroleum, Exxon Valdez. If we have, and we will, trust me, there will be, there will be a spill. I don't know how large, but the analysis that were run, the technical analysis that have been run, of course, you model and to prepare how to prepare for your responses, and it shows that if we have a major spill, it would wash away all of the islands, going all the way to Jamaica. So you can imagine our entire shore, not only our shoreline, on the coast, it would go all up the rivers. So if people, all the oil, so which means that it's gonna the fish,
A
the
frightening
fish industry
scenario, a very frightening scenario.
the fish industry would be gone. All those islands, but everybody that depends on tourism on those islands, their beaches would be gone. Their economy would be gone. So it's a serious. We would kill not only the fish but all the our one of our biggest value is our ecosystem. We've got ecological system that is as good as any in the whole world. So all of that would be gone. So we're looking at serious damages. And not to mention that we can look at lives too, because depending on what caused the spill, you can have a big explosion like we had. And what was it? About 10 people died in the Macondo. 167 people died in the North Sea in 1989 with a
Wow.
big explosion.
Yeah.
167. So, so those are the kinds of things that you got the insurer, because Guyana cannot cover that cost. They, the Exxon, not the
Doc,
Exxon.
you may have mentioned it, but about a week or two ago, there was an African country that had an explosion, and about 60,000 barrels of oil was.
No, well, you always have these spills, right?
Mhm.
But that small, the one that I always talk about was the Piper Alpha spill.
So you're saying the
In
one recently with this 60,000 barrels was a small spill?
Yeah, that's
Wow.
small compared to like the not the Exxon, the Macondo. The
Hmm.
Macondo, that was, I can't remember how many thousands of barrels were spilling every day. They couldn't shut it off. It was going on for months, if you recall.
Wow.
So
My God.
so that's the kind of spill
Frightening
that can
scenarios.
occur. Yeah, it does. And like I said, you can have lives um that would be snuffed out. But here's the deal. So going to the insurance now. So when Exxon, what happened was, and again, this is one of the flaws in the contract, and I've criticized the contract even when. So this whole
This
thing
is
about
the
keeping coal.
2016 production sharing agreement.
Yeah, but Cheryl, here is the deal. The 2016, there's very little difference between the 2016 contract and the 1999 contract that was signed by the Honorable Janet Dagon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There were some changes. The change from 1% to 2% royalty. It increased to 2%. It expanded on the stability clause, and then it added 18 million dollars signing bonus. Now, regardless, I think the contract was flawed. Regardless of which party signed it, it was flawed. But that's behind us. We need to move forward. However, in the contract, it said that you could, they you could be self-insured. The company, as long as you just trust in the company that if something happened, the company is going to take care of it. Except, and here's another thing that people need to pay attention to, Sharon.
Tell us.
This, a lot of people believe that this operation is owned by Exxon Mobil Corporation. What normally happens, and I've had to deal with this type of thing, these limited liability corporations, what these big companies do, they go and they form these limited liability corporations, the subsidiary.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hear about EEPGL, Exo Exploration Guyana Limited, it's a subsidiary of Exxon, and it's a limited liability corporation. So all the liabilities now is passed down to that company. So when you put in a contract that EPGL could be self-insured if something happens, what you're saying is EPGL will cover that. Well, EPGL doesn't have any assets because it was formed to run to where its revenue was going to become from producing oil. Well, they hadn't even produced a barrel of oil.
Mm-hmm.
So
Correct.
if while drilling, for example, if you've got a flood, EPGL doesn't have any assets. So I said that can't work. So they
Definitely
went out.
no. Doc, but what
So
I
they
want to
went out.
know is how you were able to bring ExxonMobil to the table to get
Yeah, well, that's okay.
the
So what I did,
insurance. And this administrations, they seem to be very elusive.
yes. So this is exactly what I'm getting to. So what I told EPGL, I said, well, you have to now EPGL, which is we call Exxon because they're a subsidiary of they're the operators. So I told them, I said, you've got to cover, you got to forget about the self insurance because you don't have any assets. You've got to get out there and get coverage. So they went out after a lot of pushback. They went out. They got $2.5 billion in insurance, and then came back. I said, no, no, no.
2.5 billion.
I said, no, that cannot because the Macondo spill cost 70 billion. So I said, I'm happy you got 2.5, but who's gonna cover the rest if the cost becomes over and above that? They said, well, that's all you can do. I said, no, that's not all you can do because I'm not signing this permit or any permit from now unless you get your parent companies. There are three parent companies: S X Exxon Mobil, Hess, and the Chinese company Sunup. I said, so they're throwing the liability on you. Now I'm demanding that you took back the liability on them, that anything over and above that 2.5 billion in private insurance, they've got to cover it. Of course, we fought over it, and I decided I'm not going to sign any permit. I wasn't going to sign the Payara permit. So they
I
decided
was
to
just about
leave
to
it.
ask you what were the permits pending that you refused to sign. I'm happy that you mentioned
they they
Payaro.
they they, they went out and they said, well, okay, give us some time for the three parent companies to decide how they're gonna share the liabilities. I said fine. So they went out, and so we were in negotiations for several months. We were having meetings with them, but it wasn't a case as to whether they were gonna have it. This was the case as to how they're gonna provide among the three parent companies, how they're gonna have the coverage. And we were getting close. Our lawyers were meeting with their lawyers, and then lo and behold, I was removed in August and in September because the Payaro also. Because remember, I signed the Lisa 2 permit, but of course, Lisa 2 was not gonna get started until this year. So I said, hey, if you don't get this agreement in place, you're not going to start operating Lisa 2. And furthermore, you're not going to start your Payaro. As soon as I left in August, the Payaro was signed in September of 2020. And on top of that, they they parted ways also with the attorney who was fighting the case, who was negotiating with the lawyers on the other side. So
Wow.
so now, so they removed that and they stopped all of the meetings. They abandoned the full coverage. But here's the other thing, Sharon. And I thought when they took the 2.5 billion, it was supposed to be permanent because we were supposed, they showed proof of the policy of the 2.5 billion in policy, and it was supposed to remain permanent, and we were supposed to every year report, make sure we check to make sure they're paying the premium. But I am getting the impression now that Exxon has dropped the insurance because the vice president is coming out and saying now that EPA is going to be providing the $2 billion worth of insurance. So apparently,
Oh,
Exxon
wow.
has now dropped not only have they dropped the full coverage that was supposed to be carried by the parent companies, they've also dropped the private insurance 2.5 as far as I can read
But
to
Doc,
what I'm hearing.
Doc, I want to ask you this. For those persons listening to us, it might seem like you are a good deal maker where this business is concerned. Why would the government opt for the contractor or the operator not to pick up the insurance, but pick up the insurance itself from, and this is now monies that it is getting from its 2% or its 50% profit or what have you. Why would it choose to do this? Why would it choose not to press ExxonMobil to pick up the tab for the insurance? Make sense of
Hey,
this for us.
Gerald, there's one thing that drives me crazy is just because it's just if we still have this colonial mentality that Exxon rules whatever Exxon comes in. Of course, Exxon knew that they couldn't do that with me because the first
Obviously.
standard that I told him, I said, because they knew that, Sharon, when I was working for the U.S. government, like I said, at the highest level, I managed the Exxons of the world. And they know when the government says jump, they ask how high. In Guyana, it's the reverse. They're telling us to jump and how high we should jump, that's the one thing that hurts me badly. So they know that they could not intimidate when I was there, myself nor my staff. But now they've taken full control. You remember, even with the current PPPC government, when they were in the opposition, I remember, and I was happy when they said, well, we will negotiate. The contract is the worst contract on the planet, and it calls it all kinds of names. And now I'm hearing about sanctity of the contract. So, the flaring,
I was coming
imagine,
there. I was coming there to flaring. Doc, let me set it up because again, you have an administration and people are going to argue they're installed and they're legitimate. All of those things are on the table. Fair enough. But you said when you were coming into office, you were going to renegotiate this contract. It was a bad deal. It was managed badly and poor and all that. And then you come and it looks sweet to you on the other side. So you say you're not touching it, and then you hold yourself out as a steward of the environment. Even in the this recent energy conference and expo, the vice president said he's going to get a lot of flack. People are going to take back the award of champion of the earth and all that because of what they want to do. Hence flaring, hence the mangroves and all of that. Why would you allow ExxonMobil to proceed in this manner, in terms of flaring in particular, as against holding them accountable, and trying to prevent them from harming the environment in this way? Talk to us about what flaring is so that the listeners get a fair sense of what it is, and then why we dealing with flaring in the manner we're dealing with it in.
oh, well, here's some things that happen. They even change. Sharon, Sharon is not shameful and disgraceful. They even change the permits conditions after I left to allow Exxon to flare unlimitedly. They can flare as much as they want as long as they can pay a paltry fee of $45 per ton of carbon dioxide. And let me tell you, let me convert that to you. All that, and this is technical stuff. All Exxon has to do, and they had to do it when I was here. They claim they're flaring 15 million cubic feet of gas per day. Now, every for every there's a gas oil rate. There's something called a gas oil rate. For every barrel of oil that is produced, every barrel comes up with 1,000 cubic feet of gas. And so 15, all you've got to do cut back on production of
Mm-hmm.
15,000 barrels of oil, and you get to zero flaring. So if you cut back from 120,000 barrels of oil to 105,000 barrels of oil, which is a lot of oil still, you would get to zero flaring. But they do not want to do that because that 15 barrels of oil at today's cost is over 500 million. We're looking at a lot of money per day. If you multiply, 100 and 100 and, I mean, 15,000 by 100, it's a lot of oil per day. So they're saving over $500,000 by just per day now, per day, by just not cutting back on production. They and you know what it cost them? This
Tell us.
$45 per cubic. It cost them like $50,000. So here you're getting $500,000 versus 50,000. And it's about money. It's not about Guyana's health and the environment. It's about money. So the reason, and the government is allowing that because it seems that all the government is interested is bringing in money, and it doesn't matter what happens to people's health and the environment, and God forbid that something dangerous is going to happen. So
So,
that's what this whole gimmick about saying, well, I'm collecting $45. It's nothing else but a gimmick, because this is cheap. A cheap cost for Exxon to do business. They're paying 45,000 or $50,000 a day, but they're bringing in $500,000 for producing that extra 15,000 barrels per day. And all they got to do is cut back the 15,000, you get to zero flame. It's simple. When I was there,
yep,
that's what they had to
yep.
do.
Yep. So, Doc, you have these issues now of the full coverage insurance. You got flaring. Those are all critical, grave, outstanding issues. There seems to be no movement on. Article 13 group locally that looks at some of these issues said the conference missed some good opportunities to deal with this. And then we come to another contentious issue: the auditing of the 9 billion pre-cost recovery. That price tag there, and the reluctance of the government to have this money audited to see whether ExxonMobil really spent this money or not. We're reading just today, they're saying that they got one bid out of it now. They've gone to the process to have hired at least a company called Ec- Ecclesar Financial and Professional Services, EFP, has submitted a tender. Ecclesar Financial and Professional Services. Why have they been so reluctant to, if you're running a company for me and you say you spend X or Y to do this project, wouldn't I want to know whether that money has been rightfully spent, and to verify that? Why this reluctance, to get the best for Guyanese? I don't understand it. The people don't understand it, Doc. Talk to us about that.
I wish I was that bright to understand it, Gerard, because it boggles the mind of any sensible people as to why here you're going to be stuck with a bill of 9.5 billion. But it doesn't matter, you don't, you don't have anything in place to go audit it. It's like you getting a bill that is just outrageous. Somebody, for your electricity bill or something, suddenly it's in the millions of dollars, and this here doesn't look right. But it doesn't matter to you. You know why? Because it's not coming out of your personal pocket. That's what's going on here. It's the taxpayers, the people who are making the decision. It's not coming out of their pockets, and it's irresponsible. And before they were in government, they said they were going to have all the expertise. But here is the bottom line, though, Sharon, that I've been advocating forever. We need to get rid of the PSA contract. We do not have the capacity to monitor that contract.
Mm-hmm.
That contract means that you've got to do auditing, you've got to do verification of cost, because remember, you got to calculate cost oil, and you can manipulate the books. Is mathematical gymnastics, to be honest. We do not have the capacity. All you've got to do, go to what is called a simple concession type contract, and all you need for that is to say, well, okay, for every 100 barrels, I need 30 barrels, or I need 40 barrels, or I need 50 barrels. So all you need is somebody who can count the number of barrels on the ship as they're being produced, and to make sure that the meter is running correctly. You don't got to go back and audit all these books and all this kinds of stuff. You have to go back to that concession contract that is much simpler. There's going to be some auditing, yes, but it has nothing to do with, as long as you make sure that you can verify what's coming out of the well, and you've got somebody counting that, who can count barrels and who can make sure the meters are running okay. That's the kind of contract you want, not to go and depend upon what they're reporting upon their books, because we do not have the capacity, we don't have the expertise to do it. But that's what we got to do in the first place. Go back to the concession type contract. Now the other thing, Sherrod,
Tell
is
us.
not only the flaring. Let me get back to this flaring,
Hmm.
because you know was Exxon reason for coming and telling us that they should be allowed to flare in the meetings. I hit the roof. Exxon said that it's okay for them to flare in Guyana because we are a carbon sink, meaning that we are a clean, pristine environment, so we've got enough capacity to absorb pollutants. Listen to that now. Just because Guyana is a clean environment, it's okay to dirty it because we've got the capacity to pollute it. That was
Wow.
their justification. And then the government itself come out and support that nonsense, because the government was saying, well, okay, this is the price for development and all those type of language. At the same time, Sharon, at the same time, when
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
Exxon was saying when Exxon was saying that they want to pollute our environment, they were making commitment to the rest of the world to cut back on on flaring by close to 50% in the rest of the world. So the other thing is there, Sharon, besides that, is dumping of produced water.
Tell
You
us
the,
about
you know
that, Doc. Tell us about that.
well, when you produce oil, you produce with it, you produce toxic water and that toxic gas. Well, of course, we talk about the flaring of the gas. With
Hmm.
the water now, the standard practice is, even the World Bank procedure calls for re-injecting it back into the reservoir. That's what we normally do when I worked for British Petroleum. That's the only thing we did, was you re-inject it back into the ground where it came from. Exxon is dumping it into the ocean, and this water contains oil with it. The water has all kinds of toxic substances, mercury, lead, even radioactivity, Karen. And the temperature of the water is 3 times higher what's in the ocean. So they're dumping billions of barrels of this water into the ocean. It has to impact the ocean.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
I don't have the evidence to say that that's what's causing our fish drop off, but it has to have impact.
Correct. And the
It's
fishermen
after a
have been
while,
arguing.
with time, it's you're gonna start seeing some major effects. So and all they've got to do, and the reason why they don't want to re-inject it, because again it would cost them additional money. When you ask them what was the cost, it was like $300 million to put in the equipment. But Cheryl, here's the other thing. You remember I told you that we got them to agree to full insurance coverage
Hmm.
before I left. We they we had already directed them, not only me, Sharon, when we were putting together the Payaro permit. We had with it, myself, Dr. Bino, and the Department of Energy, the GGMC folks. Um, we also had the government itself. When we were transitioning, they brought in a Canadian, this lady with some technical export from Canada.
Yep. I know
That
we had some
entire
challenges
group,
with her.
no, but that entire group, including her, said no way should Exxon be dumping water into the ocean or flaring. We defined what flaring is. So we had told Exxon for the Payara permit and beyond. That entire group, it's in writing, and they should be disclosing that to the public. This was happening up to in August when I was there.
Hmm.
When I left,
Hmm.
they had agreed as at that group, and it was in writing, with lawyers involved, that Exxon, we had a meeting with Exxon and tell them that they cannot dump, they've got to put the equipment in to re-inject, and they cannot flare. And
Hmm.
as soon as I left in Exxon, they sign off on the PIRO. The public, you guys should be asking them for them to be disclosing that information, that team, the group. The government agencies, not me alone, it's not me alone. We all agreed unanimously that there should be no dumping and there should be no flaring, except under emergency circumstance or something. So that was decided, Sharon, and all of that has now been pulled back. They're allowed to flare as much as they want, as long as they can pollute as much as they want, as long as they pay that paltry fee for it, and they're allowed to dump. All of that we had stopped. We had stopped after when I
Wow.
was there in August, and the very
Wow.
next month it was all torn down when I left.
Wow. Doc, we gotta have you back. We've talked about so many issues. I think the folks here, like Rami Leander, Andrew Cuthbert, and all the other guys joining us, Simo Williams, and so on, are now getting warmed up in this conversation. I see people saying the administration must go, and people saying, you're a wise man. They're listening to you, listening to the all the information you're sharing, and we gotta have you back, Doc, so we keep the people informed as to what's happening and make sense of the try to make sense. In some instances, we just can't of what's happening in the oil and gas sector. Try to
Yep.
make sense. Doc, and Doc,
Hey,
Doc,
yeah.
what do you
Yeah.
make of the removal of the ETI head, the supervisory body for
Oh,
the extractive industry? The ETI head has just been asked to proceed and leave, and they're going to put Dr. Prem Mazir there to head that agency. This seems to be what happened at EPA too. They want a yes man.
abso- absolutely, absolutely. Now, could anybody point to to Dr. Jagapat and said that he was doing anything that was politically motivated? That's the question that should be asked of them.
Hmm, hmm.
They come up with this excuse. That's their way out. That everybody that they want to get rid of, who's not, you know, who is not doing working in the interest of the people rather than working in the interest of the government or their ideology. Anybody who does that, they're putting this political label upon them. Well, they
Yep,
belong to
yep,
the opposition party,
yep.
which is absolute nonsense. It shouldn't be about whether which party you belong to, etc. It should be about are you working in the interest of the nation? They don't, it doesn't appear as if that's their interest. This Dr. Jadapat is, I mean, forget about this qualification because that's well established. But look at his performance since he's been there.
Correct. Correct is
How
right.
could you justify it to bring in someone of your. Now, here's the other thing. Speaking of qualifications, Sharon, one of the most egregious things that I've ever seen or read. This guy, what was his name? I read in the newspapers yesterday that this guy, Alex Graham, who was apparently responsible for either running or whatever he was doing for the
He
conference, the
was the
oil and gas
communications
conference.
director, according to what the
He
media
came
said.
out. This guy came out to the newspapers and said, "Well, the other side don't have any qualified person for us to have been put on the panel."
He sounded like a politician.
No, but that is so ignorant. So when he says that, he's implying, he's going beyond even saying, well,
Very Roger
because I'm
Luncheon-esque.
sure that it's not only politicians that were those panels. What he's saying to me, Sharon, is that nobody who supports the other side, um, is even allowed to be on these panels, because he's saying that the other side didn't have any qualified persons, which is a bunch of nonsense. But apparently, what he's saying, that doesn't only apply to politicians; that applies to anybody who they feel or suspected of supporting the other party,
Hmm.
because you know, and you don't select people for those conferences. It so happened that I was chairman of two of the biggest science and engineering conferences in the whole world, international conference representing the United States, and I was chairman of those in Kazakhstan, one in Kazakhstan, and one in Germany, with over 60 and 70 countries attending. Okay, and the way you do it, you start planning like 2 years ahead. You call for papers from people, and then you look at the papers that come in. You have a special technical committee, the committee of highly qualified people. They look at it, and then they decide in the papers. You don't even look at the names.
Hmm.
You look
Hmm.
at the papers, and
Yep.
then, of course, you put them into panels. So it's all neutral. It has nothing to do with politics. So this year was just a political charade
Seems like more like a
that
photo
that
op
that
kind of thing.
that, that happened, and hopefully, next year, because it's a very important conference, we should have it. But hopefully, we're going to do it the way that it should be done, and not having people like this Graham guy who obviously doesn't know a damn thing about what he's talking about, to say that they're not any quality, that the other side. What does he mean by the other side
They
or
just
the other
roll you out
party?
from under some rock. Where they hiding? Doc, that's gonna have to be our time today, but we have you back soon as your schedule permits. To continue to shed light on these issues. I think our Guyanese need to hear more from folks like you who know what they're talking about. Unlike this
Yep.
Roger Luncheon-esque fella, Mr. Alex Graham. Doc, thanks for being here. It's our privilege having you here today on our podcast, Below the Bell. Thanks, Doc.
A pleasure, a pleasure, a pleasure at any time.
Awesome. Folks, that's our time today, and that has been Dr. Vincent Adams. He was the former CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental Protection Agency. This is a man qualified in this area. Now, no university bestow no honorary doctorate, but he qualified. He been to school and qualified, worked at the highest levels of the U.S. government in this area, petroleum, oil and gas, and so forth. Know the issues at the back of his hands. At the back of his hand. And this administration asked this man to leave, and a whole host of folks they terminated at the agency as well, and some folks left because they didn't want to be part of this nonsense. This is what we're dealing with in this country, and we're happy that each and every one of you have been here with us. Patricia Kisoon, Kurt Heidekin, I see Hubbard Musa, Maureen Carpin Williams is here as well, and Roxanne Garway. Guys, drop a comment in so we can give you a shout out. That's only how we can know you guys are here. Folks, we can't do these programs without you, and we don't run on water, unfortunately. So come on board. We still watching at our responsibilities for the month of February. Still got to meet a few of them before the hours of this month close, and we're watching the sunset of this month even as we speak. Tomorrow is March 1. Help us to meet our obligations for February. We got several platforms available. You guys can contribute to moving these programs forward. Whether it's our Cash App platform, our Cash App handle is the $ in the ring 592. The $ in the ring 592, and then there is Zelle and PayPal. It's one email address for both of them, Zelle and PayPal. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. In the ring 592 at gmail.com. Bing, bang, bing. Ping, pang, ping. We're also available via MMG. I don't know where that came from. Via MMG, our MMG number, that's a local cash app system in Guyana. Here the accent in Guyana. Guyana. Our MMG number is 627-6963, 627-6963. We are available via MoneyGram and via Western Union as well. Help us to keep these programs going. You've done so great so far. Those of you who partnered with us in the past, do come back and do so again. And those of you who've never partnered with us before, consider doing that, folks, so that we can keep the lights on. We can keep the guys like Dave at the back here happy and keep moving forward. Peace and power, we said, in 2022. And we're so glad that Dr. Vincent Adams joined us today for issues on oil and gas on our international podcast, Below the Bell. That's going to do it for our time, guys. See you guys this afternoon. I seen Kosha. We see you. Arlie Wilson. We see you. Ingrid King. We see you. Jacqueline George. Yehesato and Jem Isaacs. Good to see each and every one of you, including Gordon Smith. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining our international podcast. Ingrid King, Gordon Smith, Maureen Coppins, Gloria Pod, Gloria. Good to see you. See, so many of you in here incognito. And if I ain't said drop a comment so I can give you all a shout out, I would never know that y'all went here. NASA, Clear Alexis, Charmley Richmond, Gloria Pod, and all you fantastic folks. That's going to do it for our time today. Ensure you share the live stream before you go. Smash that emoji button and partner with us so that we can keep pace and power in 2022. Thanks for joining us. Stay safe. That's our time. We're back in the ring at 8 tonight. That's our time today, folks. Stay safe.